deep into the Appalachian Mountains, one of the most active and haunted regions in the United States. Don't forget to subscribe, and let's take a look.
People always ask me, what's it really like living in Appalachia? Honestly, it's peaceful. There's beautiful mountains, fresh air, neighbors that wave at you with all 5 fingers instead of just one, and then there's everything else. Last night, I heard something outside my window at 3 a.m. making a noise somewhere between a coyote, a baby crying, and someone stepping on a Lego. Which in Appalachian terms means do not open the blinds. Outsiders will say, why didn't you go check? And that just tells me that they ain't lived here long enough to know the #1 rule of the mountains. If you hear something weird, no you didn't. My neighbor texted me, hey, did you see that thing walking through your yard last night? I said, absolutely not. Because in Appalachia, we don't investigate at night. We observe from inside with the curtains closed. Another fun local tradition is pretending we didn't see anything. If something tall, pale, and moving at 12 frames per second walks past your front porch, no it didn't. You saw a deer, even if it walked on 2 legs and asked you for directions. Sometimes the mountains make noises at night. Wind howls, the trees creak, and somewhere far off you'll hear some guy named Earl yelling, don't look at it! Anyway, that's normal. It's the thing about living here. You love the peace, you love the scenery, you love the community. You learn very quickly if you drop something in the woods at night, it becomes the woods' property. Let it go. It lives there now. So yeah, life in Appalachia is beautiful. Just don't whistle, especially outside at night. Don't answer anything calling your name, even if it's your own voice. And if you hear footsteps behind you, it's probably just the wind. Probably.
So this is the scariest thing that's happened to me in my entire life. I'm 21 years old and I've lived in the South all of my 21 years, specifically in the Appalachian Mountains Belt area of North Georgia. You know, if you're in the woods so far away from other people, eventually your mind's going to start playing tricks on you. If you're in the woods for days on end, or if you live in the woods, your mind plays tricks. But anyway, this is my story. This happened when I was in high school. It had to be high school. Probably junior year, close to senior year. I worked at this grocery store called Food Line, which was in the main part of town, and I live in a part of town that takes about 30 minutes to get up off of near a place called Aska, and if you live in Blue Ridge, you know exactly where I'm talking about. I live far, far, far away from town, right? It takes probably a good 30 minutes to get to my house from the main town we live in. So, I was coming home one night and I had closed, and it was before I started getting into the gym because I used to stay out till 3 in the morning on school nights, come back, sleep, school, all that, and be fine. It was before that, so I just would finish work and come home. So it was probably 12 o'clock at night, close down the store, maybe 11, and then I start driving home. So I'm driving home, it's a pretty normal night, and nighttime driving in Appalachia has to be one of the most peaceful experiences and one of the most nerve-wracking experiences you can ever have in your life. Because in the mountains, it's really pretty because you don't really see any light pollution, except for maybe a few houses. There's a few cars. You can sometimes see animals out and about, but at the same time, it's kind of unnerving because it's so calm and quiet. And at the same time, too, you always have the constant fear that a deer's going to run out in front of your car, or you're going to crash and be out of phone service. It's stuff like that, right? So I was driving home, and to get to where I live, you have to go down this little hill that then curves up to go up a bigger hill that then goes down this windy road, stuff like that before you get to the road I live on. And I was coming down that hill, and there's deer all around me. So, I see the whites of their eyes. I'm like, okay, it's just deer. I need to kind of slow it down a bit and kind of keep calm with it. And then this unnervingly, strong amount of dread just washed over me. And it was before I started getting back into Christianity. So, now I see that as, a warning thing. I was just oh, it's probably just my nerves, And I was just driving. And this dread got worse. You ever had that dread just so tight in your chest? It feels like there's a syrup in your throat almost with it. That's how I felt. So I'm driving. I have my windows down, and I'm driving listening to music. And over the music, because I think I was listening to probably some kind of divorced dad music or some sad emo shit. I don't know. But I hear in the woods next to so to better clarify, in the little dip part, when you're starting to come up, there's 2 fields and there's houses. There's 2 little open areas. And then there's a hill that comes down where this sawmill sits. And it's no trees because the sawmill's there. And I see it. In the best way, and I swear to you when I say this, and I'm getting teary-eyed thinking about it, there was a deer on its hind legs running down that hillside. And from where I'm sitting in my car window, I can see it perfectly. And it's like I look at it, my brain processes it, and I have to go back to the road, right? But in that moment of processing, it felt like I had stared at this thing for hours, but at the same time, I couldn't make out specific details. But these are the details I could, like, remember of it. It was on its hind legs running straight towards my car like this, and its neck was broken. I don't, like, it scared the shit out of me because I remember its neck was, like, loose and flopping, and it was like this, like that. And it was running on two legs at my ass, like towards my car. So I put it in I'm going faster, and I look back, and it's nowhere to be seen. Like, at the speed it was running, if I did not pick up speed, it would either have collided with my car, or had hit me and got into my car, which thank God it didn't. But either way, it would have had to have hit the road, because it was a steep down climb, and then the road's right here, right? And there's no way the thing could have, like, fallen into it, because it's, like, literally road, like, hill, road. There's no ditch. So it would have had to have ran and landed on the ground, or at least I could have seen it because of my taillights. When I looked back, I saw nothing, not a thing. And that scared me so bad, I called home, and my dad stood outside with a gun so I could get inside, and it scared the out of me. That was probably one of the most terrifying experiences of my natural born life. And that was I've seen this thing twice. Okay, so, like, at first I thought, okay, it's a deer with, like, that brain-eating disease they get, you know, maybe it's that, maybe it's just a deteriorated deer. So I didn't give it much mind. I was like, okay, it's just a dead deer. It's fine, whatever. And then I saw it again, probably 3 months later to the date. I'm driving home, past the hill where I saw it originally. Before you turn on my road, there's a church, and then there's, like, a little bit of road, then you turn off to the road I live on. So I'm driving, and there's, like, a little wind, and then there's two little fields where they collect hay, and I saw it stood in the center of the road. I'm not lying. It was stood in the road, but it was, like, on fours. It wasn't on two, and its neck was broken again. Like, its neck hung like this, and it started to kind of arch up on two legs. I just laid my horn on the thing, and it ran off. And I to this day, you know, I don't know if it was a paranormal thing or if it was just like two different deer that were dying and in different states of decay. But, like, what kind of bogs that theory out is in the area I live, they have an active total count of how many deers actively have that disease. And it's always, like, so slim, it would be really hard to see one. And the game wardens up here do a really good job at keeping those deer that are sick away from other deer and killing them and, you know, medicating them where they can and just, like, keeping the disease away. So that always has scared the shit out of me, because I'm always like, there's kind of like no way it could be that, but at the same time, I want it to be that so I don't have to think it's something else. That is the scariest thing that has happened to me in my adult life.
I would share a really crazy story that happened to me when I went camping alone in the Appalachian Mountains. It was about a year ago. It's July. I've had a notoriously bad birthday, so I wanted to really do something for myself. I told everyone I was going with people, even people at the campground. I said that I was with people just so they would leave me alone. I did my thing. I checked in with everyone when I got to the campground. I came with a knife and a sword. So I set up camp. I go up to an overlook to call everyone, and I return to camp. Nothing really happens. It was a little odd when I got there. There were no crickets, no nothing, no sounds. I didn't really think it was that odd because the campground for Peaks of Otter is on sort of a mountainside, and it was very rocky. So I was like, okay, there's probably not that many critters over here, which is fine. Arguably not fine. No food. Absolutely no food with me in the tent. No, not even traces of food. I go to bed and everything's fine until about 2 o'clock in the morning. I wake up and I hear pacing around the tent, and I was like, okay, this is weird. It's probably just a bear. So when things start swatting at me, I swat back. It's just circling and circling. It's a bear, probably. So eventually it stops and I go back to bed. Wake up maybe 2 or 3 more times to whatever it was, circling and swatting. And eventually I just kind of let it do its thing, and I would just listen. That was horrifying alone. I kept going. I tried to go through the night. And at about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, I wake up to this really weird dream. where something was like reaching through the tent. I just felt like it was like hands, like human hands reaching through the tent, and I just kept saying, no, you're not welcome here, absolutely not. I wake up, but it was that wake up where you're in between sleep still and you're not really mentally present, but you're present enough to know that you're awake. I don't know if it was sheer exhaustion from just waking up constantly on the hour. I felt something reach through the tent and press on my chest like this way and then lift. I just remember thinking, like, I really hope that's a bear. It left. It ended up circling again, it swatted again, and it inevitably left. It was easily one of the craziest things that's happened to me. But I ended up just completely leaving.
Somebody that's actually been raised up in Appalachia, I to share a good story from my experience. So I was raised up in these mountains, and we used to play hide and seek in the mountains. We used to go, hiking all the time. And we just used to do all kinds of stuff. And pretty much a lot of these mountains in this area where I grew up in, I pretty much can tell you about. Well, there's one particular mountain I won't hardly go up. I mean, I'll go up the mountain, but I won't cross the mountain. Like, go up to the top and then go down the other side. Okay, so in the fall, I do like to go ginsening and dig up yellow roots, make a little extra money. Who wouldn't? So I've been kind of spooked and stuff like that, and I really haven't been back up that mountain ever since this happened to go ginseng. And there is just a lot of ginseng, and a little bit of yellow root, but it's a pretty good amount of ginseng up there. So this particular time, I'll always take that orange construction tape with me. I tie around a tree or a tree limb or something like that. So like every so often, like every 20 yards or whatever. So I know how to make my way back, because you really just can't trust these animal trails. Because one minute you'll be going on the same animal trail, and then it'll split up in like 3 or 4 animal trails. And you just don't know, and then when you carry on the same path and everything, and then when you start digging ginseng and stuff like that, and then you're looking around, and then you start to see like 3 or 4 animal trails. Like, well, which way do I go? So that's the reason why, the orange tape. So one particular day, doing some ginseng, and I actually walked over. It's actually pretty cool. So I got on top of the mountain and went on the other side, because usually one side of the mountain is a wet side, the other side of the mountain is a dry side. So what that means is one side of the mountain is always things wet, muddy, the soil is really great, and then on the other side of the mountain, dry. There's still vegetation, stuff like that, but the ground is just really dry. So, I was on the wet side, and then I got on top of the mountain, crossed over, and then I started looking down. I was like, wait a minute. Hey, that's a wet side too. So let's go check out, see if there's any ginseng. Because ginseng grows on the wet side of the mountain. So as I was going down, and I was putting up my orange tape and everything like I usually do, and I ran into like one of the biggest patches of ginseng I ever saw before in my life. I was really excited, so I started digging up ginseng and everything. So I was there about at least a good hour and a half digging up ginseng, and I made a pretty good amount. Like, I got like 8 or 9 ounces of ginseng. It's actually pretty cool. And so this where I can't explain it. This is where I get spooked at. So I was going back the way I came from, following the orange tape and everything. So I made it on top of the mountain. Well, you figure since I was on top of the mountain, go back over, I'll be back on the same side where I originally started from. No. Like, everything changed. Like, the last bit of the orange tape I saw, it was on top of the mountain where I had it. There was no orange tape. There was nothing. It was a totally different mountainside. And so I was just walking through there, and I was sitting there trying to figure out where I was. I couldn't, so I was like, well, all right. So there's a bunch of creeks. If I know there's a creek, if I can hear water, I know there's a creek. And if there's a creek, there's a road. Because around here in Appalachia, where I live at, the creek is usually by the road, like 90% of the time. So, go figure. So I kept on walking, and, then I said, screw it. So I went back, like the way I came, got back on top of the mountain. Totally different. I couldn't find my orange tape or nothing. I was like, okay, now something's getting weird. So then I said, screw it. You know what? I am just going to completely get off the mountain right here. So I went down the mountain. So all of us people that's been raised in Appalachia, we was all raised up. The easiest way up a mountain and down a mountain is zigzag. So you just won't go completely down, sprain your ankle, break your ankle, or anything else like that. And going up the mountain, you just won't get completely winded. So it just makes life a whole lot more easier. So anyway, so I was zigging down, Sorry for all the pauses. There's only 20 people that lives up the holler here, and it seems like every one of them just coming out of the holler right now. I don't know. Well, anyways, back to the story. So I was doing the zigzags all the way down, and then I so happened to find a gas road. Alright, so this gas road, was not familiar, but, because there is like a lot of gas wells up in these mountains, but I did manage to find a gas road. So I was like, sweet. But here's the problem with the gas road. When I got on it, it was level. I didn't know which way it was going down the mountain, and I didn't know which way it was going up the mountain. But I did hear a creak. I was like, okay, so I can go either direction. So one direction would take me to a gas well, the other way would take me to a road. But if I can't find anything on either direction, I know I can go completely down, and then I run into a creek. So I went the wrong way the first time, but luckily I did find the gas well like pretty quick. So I was like, well, obviously it ain't this way, so I went the other way and backtracked. And that's what I did. So I followed the road all the way down, and the gas road all the way down until I got to the actual main road. Now, where I was at, it was kind of familiar. It wasn't really familiar because, it was just one of those places where, like, if you're driving, you can recognize it, but if you're walking, you're like, this looks kind of weird. So as I was walking, and I finally found a house, and so happened somebody was, outside doing their chores, whatever, right? So I asked the old man, I was like, hey, where am I at? And so he told me where I was at, and I was like, no way. And he was like, yeah, this is where we're at. So now tell me, how did I go up a mountain, go over the mountain, and mark my every step, and came back the same way I'm marking everything, and I ended up 15 miles somewhere else? It's just like I teleported. It was like really weird. It was mind-blowing. It really was. So yeah, so it spooked me. It really did. Because, that's just not normal, especially like when you're marking your steps. And then all of a sudden, the other side of the mountain just completely changes. It just, that's just not normal. So yeah, I got spooked. And granted, I will go up the mountain, and I had been up there, but I won't cross that mountain. I won't go to the top of the mountain and cross over no more, because I feel like that's just a certain spot. When you cross over on the other side, I don't know. I just got teleported or something. I just can't really explain how I got from one spot to 15 miles and on a completely different mountain. But if you made it this far into the story, congratulations. So, as personal experience and somebody that's been born and raised in Appalachia, if you're going to go on the Appalachian Trail or half a McCoy Trail, Appalachian Trail, just stay on the trail. These mountains are unforgiving. These mountains can be tricky, and you just never know what you'll end up finding on these mountains.
These mountains hold centuries of secrets, and we're only scratching the surface. Make sure to subscribe, and as always, stay safe, stay aware, and question everything.